range, a peak in the correlation function of the chaotic spectrum. So this is only the chaotic spectrum. So there is still the specific rotation rate where we have these partial barriers. But also at the other rotation, where at short distance we have the GOE distribution, at much longer range than the mean level spacing, so it's like 10 times more, we get this peak, which is visible at all rotations. So we attribute this peak to the fact that the classical system is very peculiar in the sense that the speed of sound, which enters action, goes to zero close to the border of the star, because the star is actually less and less dense close to the border. And in this case, this leads to a strong bunching of orbits. So this is the distribution. We couldn't get the distribution of periodic orbits because we cannot, there is no code or anything in this system. So what we could get is to launch trajectories and look at the distribution of chords between 2 points on the boundaries. So this is this distribution, and you see a strong bunching, which is characterized by two numbers: the distance between the different peaks and the width of the distribution. So here is really the number. So this is one rebound between 1 point on the border and the next one, 2 rebounds, 3 rebounds, 4 rebounds, and so on. So the distribution gets wider and wider when the length increases. And actually, this phenomenon is present in all systems, in billiards also. But here it's made much more visible due to the specificity of the system with this what happens close to the boundary of the star, where momentum increases a lot, and all trajectories actually get much of their action from this part close to the border. So if we compare here this width over this length scale, it is 1.08 for this system. If we replace the border by a billiard, on the interior by a standard billiard, then with the same shape, then we get something much larger, which is 0.32. So if we now plug it in the semi-classical theories that we are used to work with, the Gutzwiller trace formula of the density of state, the form factor on the diagonal approximation due to Berry, which is here. So usually in this theory, in the diagonal approximation, you end up with a GOA prediction due to the sum rule of Hannay and Osorio de Almeida. But here there is this specific distribution, there is a regime of time where we have a specific distribution of the form factor. And now if we Fourier transform this form factor, we can compare to the real data. And so this is the data if we Fourier transform the form factor to get the correlation function. This gives a strong peak in the correlation function. And if we compare the position of this peak to what we obtained from the numerical modes, the acoustic modes, we obtain a reasonably good agreement. It goes the same direction with about 5% difference. And this effect disappears when sigma 0, which is the width of this bunching, increases compared to T0, which is the distance between peaks. So you see that the value for billiards, for the billiard with the same shape will be around here, where the peak is basically 0. And so you don't see it in usual billiards, but in this case you should see it. And here is the height of the peaks. The points in red are the numerical points of the real numerical acoustic modes. So there is this specific value of rotation. Maybe I don't discuss too much about it, where there are partial barriers. And in this case, these create independent spectra. And in this case, so there are other peaks coming from these different subparts which are independently quantized. So I have presented these ideas of chaotic and regular modes. There is a question of can we see these modes? Remember that we see stars basically as points. There are very close stars which can be seen as a little bit more than points, but most of them are just too far. So what people really see is an average of the mode over a whole hemisphere. And we see the stars from the different direction compared to their rotation rate. It can be sidewise or from the pole. So this is a simulation for different values of angle. This is from the pole, and this is when we are seeing the equator. And the regular modes are in these blue lines, and the red ones are the chaotic modes. And this is visibility. So the regular modes on the chaotic mode should be visible in many stars. The ones that shouldn't be seen are the whispering gallery modes, which are too spread out on the surface, and so they are basically, they average to 0. So we think that both modes can be observed. Now there are astrophysical implications. So there are two peaks, actually, one created by the specific regular trajectories, island modes, and the peak created by the chaotic trajectories. These two quantities should be close, but to discern the two peaks really depends both on the quality of the spectrum, on its size, and on rotation. So this will depend from star to star. What we have as a result is that one class of rapidly rotating stars is called delta Scuti, for whatever reason. And they have found in this paper peaks in the autocorrelation spectrum. So it shows that there are some peaks visible in some type of regular stars. So now we have to compare really to the theory for the stars that they can observe and see if we can get results for the astrophysical, which have astrophysical interest for them. So this is the conclusion for this part. So we have this transition from integrable to mixed system, which is very standard to us, but not for astrophysicists. So we can divide the modes into regular or irregular. And the good point is that the semi-classical thing, semi-classical theory I present, we can relate the quantities that we extract from these peaks, from the distance, the correlation in the peaks, to things which are related to internal properties of the star. So in principle, we could compare in the model the length of the action of these orbits and see if it compares well to what is observed in the observation. And also, it allows, if they like also in astrophysics, to have some organization of the spectrum, because it's actually not simple to, you could think, okay, I do a Fourier transform and I have my peaks, and what is the problem? Actually, it requires some care, because all the modes are not excited, they have differently excited, it's a very complicated system, actually, and they like to have some guide to know what they should look for in a spectrum, to distinguish from noise and so on. So we hope that this could lead to a better understanding of the star interior. And of course, we can go to more refined numerical models, but to have more details of the internal structure. But the point is really to get to a level where people can compare with numerical models of stars on one side, and the observation on the other, and have this theory in between to guide the people. Actually, the models are not so good to describe the internal parts of the stars. It's not. There is some margin of variation, which has a lot of astrophysical interest in the different models which exist for the internal part of the stars. So now I go to the second part. So this was the semi-classical, but not quantum, with this huge H-bar, which can be thousands of kilometers, but still small. And here we have this another kind of subject I wanted to discuss relatively fast. Sorry, it's that we are used to have these different types of quantum states, which are either integrable or chaotic. And in condensed matter, they have similar types of states, which are localized or ergodic. But there are new, more exotic type of states which begin to appear in condensed matter, and this is an example of such. And it is on a quantum graph. So not, I have seen that some people in this conference are working on quantum graphs, but here it's disordered quantum graphs. So it's a different kind of system where we average over graphs and over disorder. But it's interesting to see the relationship to other types of works on non-disordered graphs. This work has been done with these people. One is from South America, Ignacio Garcia Mata, Argentina, and colleagues from LPTMS on Liège, and Rémi is actually now in Regensburg. There are people from Regensburg, Liège here. So there are. So let me first say that there are different quantum states. Of course, you all know ergodic state and localized states, which are exponentially localized. Recently, there have been the idea that there are other type of states which can have multifractal properties. So in quantum chaos or in condensed matter, they have been seen, and I think Eugene will speak about them, but they have also been seen in condensed matter. So here are examples. This is So here is a localized state, Anderson localized in this case. This is ergodic state will be more or less flat with oscillations everywhere. And these are multifractal states where you see they are everywhere, so they are delocalized, but they have huge fluctuations which are much bigger than the ergodic states, and you have the structure at each scale is similar. So how do you observe such properties? You observe them through moments of the wave function. So multifractality will be a variation of the power law behavior of moments as a function of system size. So you are used maybe to fractal systems where there is only one fractal dimension, but the generic case is more multifractality where you have a whole bunch of fractal dimension which depends on the moment of the distribution. So here there's no reason that the scaling is the same for each Q. And so this way of doing it is for the whole system, changing size. You can also look at one system, one size, but changing the scale at which you look. So you define a measure in boxes, so you coarse grain the system into boxes. In each box, you compute the moment, and then you define the moment at this scale through formulas like this. And you have, again, you can define power law behavior of moments, which depend on scale. And these are examples of such computation where the moments, so here are the different scales. And if you have a straight line, this means that you have a power law over this range of scales. It can be over a smaller scale, not all, maybe not all scales. But then you have a scale-dependent multifractality that you can explore. So, on the multifractal exponents that you get from this type of computation in both cases, if they are constant and equal to space dimension, this corresponds to ergodic states. And then you can have strong or weak multifractality depending on how this coefficient decrease with Q. So it is here are examples of such distributions, dq as a function of Q. And it is a tool to probe the ergodic properties of quantum states. Okay, now here are examples of systems which have been studied in the past few years which show multifractality. One is condensed matter, the 3D Anderson model at the metal insulator transition. It's a disordered system for solid-state physics. And there is also what is called pseudo-integrable systems, which are systems which are not integrable, but the classical motion takes place on surfaces, but surfaces with higher genus. So here is an example. And in this case, there is multifractality in one of the bases for the system. So these are examples. So we are, in this case, we will not look at the pseudo-integrable case, but to the Anderson case. So this is Anderson Hamiltonian. And as you know, classically there is diffusion, but quantum mechanically the particles can be localized. So in 1D or 2D, particles are localized. But in 3D, there is a metal insulator transition, and right at the transition point, we have multifractal states. This is common law, known from long time. Now, there is another type of system which emerges in the past few years, which is random graphs. So this is the infinite dimension. This is in the 1, 2, 3D Anderson models is well understood, but in this case, there is much discussion. And it has some importance because people think that there is analogy with many-body localization, this subject that you have heard about recently. There is a tree-like structure in Fock space, and people think that there is some relationship between the two, that understanding random graphs enable to understand at least some guiding idea for many-body localization. So for graphs without loops, for example, the Cayley trees, there is a presence which is of a delocalized non-ergodic phase, which is so multifractal phase, which is more or less accepted by the community. So there is a localized phase, a transition to a non-ergodic delocalized phase, multifractal, and then a transition to an ergodic phase. In the generic case of graphs without loops, there is actually a question: what is going on in this system? What is the type of states that we observe? So we take a model of random graph, which is 1D. So this is a 1D Anderson model, and then we add random links between which go across the system, shortcut links somehow. So the number of links depend by a parameter p, and this corresponds to a random graph with a branching number, which is 1 plus 2p. So we have a parameter that we can change, which goes from very few links to a large number of links up to a branching number of 2. The model is infinite dimensional. What does it mean? You can define a maximum distance between 2 points, and the maximum distance is the distance is a minimal distance between. So you go from one point to the other. You try all the possible paths which go from one point to the other. So the minimal path is the distance. And then the max of all this distance is the diameter, and the diameter is logarithmic for all value of p. So the diameter of the maximum length scale you can put in this system is logarithmic in the size of the system. So this corresponds to infinite dimension in a sense, because in usual system, this parameter is related by a power law to the size of the system. So there is some link with classic physics, with analogy with directed polymer model known in the localized phase. And we will explore the system to large size numerical simulation. We went up to 2 million size matrices. So what is going on? What we found in our system is that there is one single transition for p non-zero, so there is no sign of a second transition. And if we explore through the moments, we can look at the moment, and this is right at the transition, in the critical regime. So there is a transition from localized to delocalized. And in this critical regime, we see a power law of the moments, but as a function of log2 of n. So not of the size of the system, but of the logarithmic logarithm of the size of the system. So this means somehow that there is the critical state is multifractal, but only on a small part of the system. It is delocalized, but only on few branches of the graph. So this is similar to what happens in this directed polymer problem of classic physics, where the system actually follows only a few branches among all the possible. And it is a very specific kind of states where you have delocalization, but only over a small subset of the system. So now what is going on? Yeah, okay. So what is going on both sides of the transition? So now there is, since the 70s, we know that if we want to look at this transition point, what is going on away from the transition, we have to use scaling relations, scaling theory of localization. And here, what will play an important role, so we have to make some assumption and check them with numerics. So basically, what we do at the end is to use large-scale numerics to see what scaling assumptions are possible. So in the localized scale side, we see a linear scaling as a function of, so this is the usual scaling hypothesis as it is usually done. You have the critical behavior, and then you have a function of one parameter. And here it's the diameter over xi, where xi is the localization length in the localized size. And here you see that on the localized side, we have a perfect agreement. This is curves on n on different n on different w for large w in the localized phase, and they all end up on a nice curve, which is precisely this f. Now, if I go on the other side, on the delocalized side, we see that there are discrepancies if we try to do the same with the linear scaling of dn over xi. So these discrepancies are systematic. It's not finite size. We believe that at least that they are cannot be explained away by finite size or things like that. They should be, if the hypothesis were correct, it should be a smooth curve. So if we use a second type of scaling, we have to change this usual scaling to another one, which is volumic. So remember, the first scaling was on a length scale, so dn over xi. Now we use a volumic scaling, which is n size over lambda, which is a volume. And this new scaling gives a very smooth curve. All the different curves for different n and w, they converge on one single curve, which is there. So the delocalized, so this, what is the interpretation of this scaling curve? It means that the delocalized states are non-ergodic below a volumic scale, which is lambda, and ergodic above. So the slope -1 here means that at the end it is ergodic. And the critical state is non-ergodic. The limit to the critical state gives again the critical behavior because lambda diverges. But in the close to the transition, you have this sort of bubbles of non-ergodicity, but ergodicity at large scale. So you can compute the critical exponents on both sides, which are different. We'll not discuss much of them. And now you can use the second tool, which is to look at scale-dependent multifractality. Before, I was looking at different size, but for the full system. Now I divide my system into sub-parts, and I look at different scales. So here is the moment for different length scales. This is the smallest, this is the largest. I coarse grain at different scale. And what I find is that this is the localized regime, this is the critical regime. And here I am in the delocalized phase. What I find is that for small size, so this here we follow the one path, which is the original 1D lattice, on which we have added all these links. So the numerics is done along this length. And what we see is we have a small scale which is basically between two branches. So this is just one, the system is just one 1D in this regime. And we find multifractal behavior. You remember multifractality is a slope in this regime. Then we go to another regime where we have several branches, but very few are populated. Exponential number of branches, but only few are populated. So it looks like flat, like localized. And then we go to another regime where we have an ergodic regime. So we find again with this studied at one size but at different length scales, the same type of behavior. We can again do the finite size scaling for this length scale where we find the ergodic behavior. And again, we find linear and volumic scaling and an ergodic regime at large scale. Okay, so we can check the same results are correct for small p's or larger p up to p equal 0.49 is the closest we can get to the k equal 2, and then at this, for all these values, we find the same behavior. So, right, that's the conclusion. So, what we found in this system is that we have one single transition, not two, so we have a localized phase and then a delocalized phase, which is not multifractal, but has specificity that to be non-ergodic at small scales and ergodic for large scales. So it's like we had like bubbles of non-ergodic behavior, and but these bubbles, there are many of them, and then the whole compartment is ergodic. At the transition, there is multifractality on single branches. We have different scaling behaviors on each side of the transition, and it does not seem to depend on the branching number of the graph. So we think that this should be universal for infinite dimensional random graphs without boundary. So the main difference with the Cayley trees, the graph which is only tree without loops, is that there are no loops. Here we have loops, and so this agrees with works, analytical works of other people. So there is discussion on this kind of system. But some people, like Mirlin Tikhonov, I found also that there should be no an ergodic phase or no non-ergodic phase in this system. Some other, like a group of Altshuler, Kravtsov, have found non-ergodic phase. Our results say that there is only one transition, only on a specific but still ergodic phase on the delocalized phase. Okay.